Yo, 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 what's the news, y'all? And we back. Breaking news. Chris Paul has been traded to the Phoenix Suns for Kelly Oubre, Ricky Rubio, Ty Jerome, Jalen LeQuay, and a 2022 first-round pick. I'm happy for Chris Paul. He gets to be closer to his family. He gets to be closer to home in Phoenix. I'm really happy for him. Also, Devin Booker and Chris Paul in the backcourt, that just seems lethal. Because if you think about it, they're honestly probably going to be one of the best backcourts in the league next season. Like, what are the backcourts in the West? The Lakers, they have a better backcourt than the Lakers. I think this makes the Phoenix Suns one of the best backcourts in the league. You have Chris Paul, Devin Booker. That's pretty lethal. And when comparing them to the other teams out West, all the other backcourts out West, they might be the second, third best backcourt in the West. Steph and Clay's one. You might put Dame and CJ above, but I don't know. Between them, Dame and CJ above. Then Chris Paul, Devin Booker 3. I feel like that's a pretty good spot. There's not really too many other backcourts better than them in the West. The Lakers don't have a better backcourt. The Clippers don't have a better backcourt. Who else? The Mavs don't have a better backcourt. The Blazers, that's a debate. Of course, the Rockets do right now, but Westbrook and James Harden are both probably gone before the season starts. I have a feeling there's a 90% chance that they're both gone before the season starts. I'm thinking about that. I'm not crazy to say that Devin Booker and Chris Paul aren't a top 3 backcourt in the West. Now looking at this trade from Phoenix standpoint, this is great. This is an excellent trade for Phoenix. When you look at Chris Paul, every team he goes play for, they've always been a winner in terms of like being able to make it to the playoffs. You know, when he was with the Hornets, before the Hornets were called the Pelicans, when he went to the Clippers were irrelevant before that. That's my favorite team. Clippers were irrelevant before that. He came there and he helped change the whole culture. He went to Houston, made it to his first Western Conference Finals appearance, and then going to OKC, they make the playoffs. And a lot of people were doubting them. I always thought they could make the playoffs, but I didn't think they would be higher than an 8th seed, in my opinion. But a lot of people were doubting them, and he proved them wrong. You know, he also went vegan. That could play a big part in why he didn't get injured last season. Also, if we gonna keep it a buck, the season was shortened last season. But, you know what? Whatever. The really only downside of this trade, if he does get injured, that's the only thing I could see holding him back. Or if he does decline. But, I mean, I think it's great. That Deandre Ayton and Chris Paul, the pick and roll and the pick and pop capabilities, that's going to be lethal. I really think this helps out Deandre Ayton more than it helps out Devin Booker, in my opinion. You have Deandre Ayton, the pick and pop, pick and roll, that could be lethal. He's an emerging center. I honestly think that combo is going to be lethal. And then, of course, you have Devin Booker in the backcourt, who's already a great scorer. He could score from anywhere on the court. He could drive, finish, and he's also a good passer. He's a good passer. He doesn't really need Chris Paul to help facilitate for him. He's shown that he's been a good enough passer for the team over the course of the few years. I think the lineup of Chris Paul, Devin Booker, Mikal Bridges, Cameron Johnson, and Deandre Ayton, I think that's a pretty good starting 5 in the NBA, especially out west. And then you talk about the possibility of bringing back Dario Saric and then Aaron Baines. That's a pretty good team. Those 7 players I just mentioned, that is good enough to make it to the top 5, 6 in the West. And we were already talking about how the Phoenix Suns could be contenders to make the playoffs before they even got Chris Paul, after we saw what they did in the bubble going 8-0. I thought that lineup that they ran of Ricky Rubio, Devin Booker, Mikal Bridges, Cameron Johnson, and Deandre Ayton was pretty lethal. Thinking of this from the Thunder's perspective, I think you get a good point guard in Ricky Rubio. He could pass. He could help develop Shai a little bit more. I think Shai's going to have a breakout season next year. Definitely going to be, in my opinion, he could become an all-star next season. That's how good I think he is. That's how good I think his potential is. You put him right next to Rubio, and then you also are bringing in Kelly Oubre. You also bring in Kelly Oubre, who's a small forward that could start for almost any team in the NBA right now. And then you put them alongside a Steven Adams in the front court, which that's a pretty good team. You know, it's a good team for the OKC fans that would make them still want to watch. It's a team that would still be fun to watch, you know? And they also get another pick, OKC. You know, it's crazy. I think they're going to have 17 first-round picks for the next 6 years. Sam Presti's just stockpiling picks at this point. That's pretty crazy to me. Thunder worked with Chris Paul's reps, and they were able to get him to the trade destination they wanted. We heard the Clippers and we heard the Suns. Those were the two main teams that were talked about, really. We heard the Bucks, but the Bucks weren't really talked about. That was just brought up. But the Clippers and the Suns were really the two main teams brought up. And Chris Paul, the Thunder let him have a say in where he wanted to go, and they made it happen. And Sam Presti does have a history of partnering with star players, including Paul George, Russell Westbrook, James Harden, Carmelo Anthony. So, yeah, when you think of the West next season, I don't think there won't be too many teams better than the Suns. You have the Lakers, the Clippers, the Nuggets, the Warriors, and then I'd probably put the Suns at 5. The Suns could be a top 5 seed, legitimately, next season. And yes, I know I may be not putting the Mavs or the Jazz ahead of them, but we got to remember the Mavs, Kristaps Porzingis is coming off an injury, and he most likely won't even be there for the start of the season, and that's going to have an effect on how they play out in the standings. And then the Jazz, I honestly think they're so inconsistent sometimes, and injuries are also hurting them, but I don't think they could be better. I think the Jazz are a top 7, 8 seed at best. It's kind of early though, you know, we'll always have to wait and see. We will really never know if this trade works out until we actually see it on the floor and it come together. But on paper, this trade actually looks pretty good from the Suns standpoint, and it doesn't look like a bad return from the Oklahoma City Thunder standpoint. You know, they could keep developing their young talent, develop Shea as the main focal piece. Who knows? Steven Adams might get traded. They might decide to just go all young, you know, and just develop all their young guys and keep stockpiling on draft picks. But that's more to see. The Suns got Devin Booker, all NBA point guard, and what more can you really ask for? Anyways, that's it for me, and we out.